In the quiet streets of Cebu, two sisters walked into the night, unaware it would be their last journey together. One would be found lifeless at the bottom of a ravine. The other would vanish without a trace. Their story gripped the nation, divided public opinion, and exposed deep cracks in the justice system. It is a tale of grief, suspicion, and questions that, decades later, remain unanswered. This is Pinoy True Crime Story, and tonight, we revisit one of the most haunting and controversial cases in Philippine history, the Chiong Sisters. July the 16th, 1997. The streets of Cebu were quieting down as the evening deepened. In the city's bustling districts, lights from jeepneys flickered as they made their final trips for the night. The air was thick with the smell of street food and the faint sound of karaoke from nearby houses. But for the Chiong family, that night would mark the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt them for decades. Marijoy and Jacqueline Chiong were sisters. Marijoy, 21 years old, was the quieter one. Soft-spoken, gentle, a young woman who carried herself with a certain grace. Jacqueline, 23, was more outspoken, with an energy that often drew people in. They were close, inseparable, and often seen together walking through the streets of Cebu. That night, they had been out, and it was almost 10 p.m. when they were last spotted near Ayala Center, Cebu. Witnesses would later claim that they saw the sisters waiting for a ride home. But what happened next would become the stuff of court records, television specials, and national debate. According to accounts presented in court, a group of men approached the sisters, offering them a ride. Among them were Francisco Paco Larrañaga, Rowan Adlawan, Yosman Aznar, Ariel Balansag, James Andrew Uy, and Alberto Caño. These names would later become infamous, tied forever to the case. The prosecution's version painted a harrowing picture. The sisters, forced into a vehicle, taken to a secluded area, and subjected to unspeakable violence. The narrative would claim that the sisters were brought to a remote location in Karkar, Cebu. Jacqueline, it was said, was raped repeatedly by several of the accused. Marijoy, according to this version, attempted to escape, but her captors caught her. Eventually, Marijoy's body was found dumped in a ravine in Tanawan, Karkar, bruised, battered, lifeless. Jacqueline's body was never found. She vanished completely, as if swallowed by the night. The police investigation quickly focused on the group of men named by a supposed witness, Davidson Rusia. Rusia, a co-accused, would turn state witness in exchange for immunity. His testimony became the backbone of the prosecution's case. He claimed to have been present that night, recounting details of the abduction, the assaults, and the killing. The Chiong family, devastated and desperate for justice, clung to Rusia's words. Public sympathy poured in for them. The brutality of the crime sparked outrage across the Philippines. Newspapers ran the story for weeks, and people spoke of little else. In a country already weary of violent crimes, this case struck a raw nerve. But from the beginning, cracks began to appear in the narrative. The defense countered that several of the accused were miles away from Cebu on the night of the alleged crime. Paco Larrañaga, in particular, insisted he had been in Quezon City, attending classes at the Center for Culinary Arts. His classmates, instructors, and even official school records supported his claim. More than 30 witnesses testified to seeing him in Manila on July 16th and 17. Despite these testimonies, the court sided with the prosecution. In 1999, after a highly publicized trial, all 7 accused were found guilty of kidnapping and serious illegal detention with homicide and rape. They were sentenced to death by lethal injection. The decision was met with applause from many in the courtroom, but outside, questions lingered. International human rights groups, including Amnesty International, began to scrutinize the case. They pointed to inconsistencies in witness statements, the lack of physical evidence linking the accused to the crime, and the reliance on the testimony of a single state witness who had received immunity. In Spain, where Paco's father was from, media outlets picked up the story, framing it as a miscarriage of justice. In 2004, the Philippines abolished the death penalty, commuting all death sentences to life imprisonment. For Paco and the others, this meant avoiding lethal injection, but it also meant spending the rest of their lives behind bars. Paco's case drew more attention when Spain formally requested that he be allowed to serve his sentence there. After long negotiations, he was transferred to a Spanish prison in 2009. For the Chiong family, the case was closed in their hearts. They believed that justice had been served, that the men convicted were truly responsible for the loss of their daughters. But for many others, the case remained murky. Some saw it as emblematic of a flawed justice system, where public outrage and media pressure could outweigh the careful weighing of evidence. In the years that followed, documentaries and investigative programs revisited the Chiong case. Most notably, the 2011 documentary Give Up Tomorrow cast serious doubt on the convictions, highlighting the discrepancies in the prosecution's case and the alibis of the accused. It questioned how someone could be in two places at once and why certain pieces of evidence seemed to be ignored. Yet no matter how many debates and discussions unfolded, two haunting truths remained. Marijoy Chiong was dead, and Jacqueline Chiong had vanished without a trace. For their mother, Thelma Chiong, the pain was unending. She became an outspoken advocate for victims' rights, often appearing in media to speak about her daughters and the need for justice. For the families of the convicted men, the ordeal was equally agonizing, watching their sons spend their lives in prison while believing in their innocence. The Chiong Sisters' story is not just about a crime. It is about the collision of grief, justice, and truth. It is about a justice system under pressure, a nation's anger, and the deep wounds left by unanswered questions. Whether you believe the convicted men are guilty or innocent, the case forces one to confront the fragility of truth in a world where stories can be shaped, evidence can be contested, and justice can mean different things to different people. More than 2 decades later, the Chiong case continues to divide opinion in the Philippines. In coffee shops, online forums, and family living rooms, the arguments still play out, sometimes heated, sometimes resigned. But behind the arguments, there are still 2 young women who never came home. One was found lifeless at the bottom of a ravine. The other disappeared into the darkness. And somewhere between the grief of a family and the verdict of a court lies the enduring mystery of what truly happened on that July night in 1997. 2 sisters, one gone forever, the other still missing. A family's grief etched deep into the years. A verdict that brought closure for some and doubt for many others. In the end, the truth about that July night in 1997 remains a shadow, lingering between what was proven, what was believed, and what can never be known. For the Chiong family, the wounds have never truly healed. For the convicted, the fight for freedom continues. And for the rest of us, the case is a reminder that justice, once decided, is not always justice found. Thank you for listening to Pinoy True Crime Story. If this story has made you think, made you question, or made you feel, follow the channel, share the episode, and stay with us for more stories that should never be forgotten. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, truth is often the hardest thing to find.